Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast, hosted by Renita Ray Davis, licensed clinical social worker, board-approved social work clinical supervisor, and facilitator of the Goddesses of Social Work supervision community. Join us as we travel through the social work journeys told by the Goddesses of Social Work community members, past and present, as they make their way toward clinical licensure.
Welcome to the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. I'm here today with Katrena Dale, LMSW. Katrena Dale is not only a mom and wife, but a dedicated LMSW that has been in the field of social work since 2018. She graduated from the University of Alabama with not only her bachelor's degree, but her master's degree as well. Katrena has diligently worked with various populations, such as mental health, the incarcerated, and children and adolescents. Katrena is currently working to obtain her LCSW in hopes of developing her own private agency in order to continue her passion for helping and improving the lives of others. Welcome to the show, Katrena.
Hi,
So glad you said yes.
me too. I'm happy I had said yes too.
And actually, Katrena, as you know, the Goddesses of Social Work podcast was on a break. And then you said you were ready to come on the show. I've been curious, what made you be brave enough to finally say yes?
At this point, I'm in a phase of my life where I just don't want to be bored anymore. I just want to start stepping out on things and not being bored and not being too afraid to say yes. So that's pretty much it. I was like, why not?
Why not? And how and how has the experience been so far?
It has been a good experience because I'm actually proud of myself because I do not do public speaking at all. I can say that over the past couple of months since I've been in supervision, that has helped me out a lot when it comes to speaking in front of groups. So I'm growing.
Absolutely, you are growing. And that was really one of the reasons we wanted to start the podcast was because I wanted a platform for women that look like me to be able to practice public speaking in a safe space. And so for you to step out of your comfort zone, that's how we grow is stepping out of our comfort zone.
I agree. Like you gotta just step out sometimes.
Absolutely. Katrina, I love listening to the stories of social workers, and I'm always curious about what made them choose this path and what led them to the place they are now in their career. What has your social work story been?
I love telling people what made me choose social work. That's one of my favorite stories. Because when I first came to college, I was pre-med. I had in my mind I was gonna be a doctor, I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and that was my biggest goal. Like I gotta be a psychiatrist. So I came to UA and I was working in retail, and one of my coworkers, she was she was getting her master's in social work. And she asked me why did I want to be a psychiatrist? And I told her like because I want to help people, I want to save the world. That's my whole thing. That's my biggest thing. I want to save the world. I want to help people. I love mental health. So she was like, no, you don't want to be a psychiatrist. You want to be a social worker. And I was like, no, because I was young, I was like 19. And in my mind, a social worker, I was like, no, them just some people that take to kids. And she was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. So she begged me to take social work 101. And she kept asking. So finally I just said, you know what, whatever, okay. And I took social work 101. I fell in love. It was like, oh my God, I love it here. So after that started my journey to I want to be a social worker.
Well, thank your friend. And is she also still within the profession working?
Actually, it's been years since I talked to her because we were working together at one of the retail stores in the mall. So she left and she actually moved to Mississippi. So I haven't seen her. But I'm pretty sure she is because at that point she was working on her master's and she had big plans for herself. So I think she is.
Absolutely. I think the universe brings people along our path to say, hey, go in this direction.
I agree with that 100%.
Hmm. I have heard that's my story too, Katrina. I didn't know what social work was, and I took my first social work 101 class, and I was like, oh, wow, I am at home. And that's what it sounds like. And you had the pleasure of getting both your bachelor's and master's at the University of Alabama. Roll Tide, right?
Yes,
What was that experience like for you?
it was fun. Very, very fun. Growing in the same college for both degrees because you got to see a lot of the same professors. So they got to watch you grow, from undergrad to grad. So I think having them watch me grow, I think that really, gave me the push to keep pushing. So I enjoyed it a lot.
I got my master's from University of Alabama as well. Did you think, because I got my bachelor's from Auburn University and then I went straight to University of Alabama, which was a culture shock, by the way. But one of the things in both of those campuses that was big was a lot of the girls, mostly girls, women that I was going to school with, they were going to stay either in Tuscaloosa or in Auburn and work. Since you got both your bachelor's and master's in social work in Tuscaloosa, was that your thought too, that you would stay in Tuscaloosa and work? No.
No, not at all. Not at all, not at all. I was supposed to move. I was like, okay, as soon as I finish getting my degree, I'm out of here. Unfortunately, I'm not out of here, but that's okay. God's working. So I really wanted to go to Birmingham. It's not that big of a step away from Tuscaloosa. So now I'm thinking bigger, maybe switch, especially with the new compact. That excites me so much. That means that my licensure will go across different states. I'm like, I can move to Georgia, I can move to Tennessee. So that gave me way more moving room.
Yes. And I believe in multiple state licensure. So you can do that even before the compact, right? As you know, yeah. Katrina, how do you know me and you don't know that I am licensed in 6 different states?
That was close to compact.
No, it's no. So we'll talk more about that. And a lot of the goddesses are licensed in multiple states as well, and the compact hasn't passed yet.
Wow. Did they have to retake the test?
No. No, you can go ahead and get licensed in multiple states now if you want to. So if you have the dream to move to another state, that you don't have to wait on the compact. You can go ahead and apply to that board and be licensed in a different state. So, but we'll talk about that. What made you could, because a lot of people don't realize, like I got my bachelor's at Auburn and I didn't know the importance of the master's. Dr. Ike Burson, he was at Auburn. He's the one who told me, Renita, you need to go get your master's straight after my BSW. What made you decide to get your MSW?
Well, I'm an overachiever for one, so if I go in, I go in. So, um, it was basically when I go in, I go in. Plus, on top of that, when I was looking for jobs, even just browsing Indeed and stuff like that, everything wanted a master's. Not only a master's, a licensed master social worker. I'm like, okay, I gotta go higher. So that's what made me know, like, and tell my parents, like, no, I'm not done yet. I have to go get my master's. And they like, why? I'm like, because I have to, because I'm not gonna find a job without it. You can't find jobs without it. You can, because I be seeing now some you just have to be a bachelor social worker. I was like, oh, okay. When I was looking for that, that wasn't there. Okay. But that's just God, like you said, God just leading you to the next step that you need to go to. So he just had to put in my face that no, you need your master's. You need your master's. After you get the master's, you need your license. No, it went farther than that. After I got my master's, it became I need my LICSW. Like, why I just can't catch up. So basically, that's what makes me keep going because I know, okay, you just got to keep going. if you want a job that you're gonna love, you just gotta keep it moving, keep climbing further and further and further.
I love it. I do. What was your licensing experience like? So, as you know, some women or some social workers struggle with passing the test, and so I often am curious because, and then there's a bunch of us, as you know, that are passing it on the first or second try. What was your experience like?
Well, like we were saying earlier, I'm trying to step outside the box because I'm a very, what word I want to use? I'm very cautious or afraid to step out or afraid to take chances because I don't like the word no. So me failing the test was gonna be like a no for me. So I was working and my job told me, Katrena, you have to get your license. I'm like, okay. Then the time I was just blowing it off, blowing off, blowing off. Then it came to the point, well, Katrena, if you don't get your license in a certain amount of time, you're gonna lose your job. So I'm like, okay. It's to the point where I just had to. I waited down to the very last second to the point I just had to unless I'm gonna lose my job. So I just even the night before I scheduled to take my test all the way down to the night before. I was like, no, God, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Like, it's like I'm about to jump, I don't know, about to jump off or something. Or when I go zip lining, I know I want to zip line. I signed up to go zip lining, but when it's time to jump, I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. So that's how I felt the night before my test, even to the point where I started looking up, can I cancel and reschedule? Can I cancel and reschedule? And it's like, no, it's less than 24 hours. I'm like, oh my God, what if I just don't go? My husband, he taught me like, man, you just gotta go ahead and go, just do it. I'm like, no, I can't. So basically I had to just push myself off and just pray, a lot of prayer, a lot of prayer. Because I'm not a studier. I don't like to study. And I think that's something that I grew up with. I didn't really have to study when I was in growing up. So I never learned how to study. So I did a quick crash, like the couple weeks before, minor studying and a lot of prayer. So I just jumped in and God came through for me.
Absolutely. And what's been your journey since getting the license? So apparently you got to keep your job. Congratulations.
Like,
Yeah. Do you know I was 10 years postmasters before I got my license, and that was only because my job told me I had to get it. I had a certain amount of time. So a lot of us would have not gotten our license had our employers not told us. So, I'm glad they did because for me, a lot of doors just like flew open after I got it that I didn't know was possible. What has been your experience since getting your license?
that is definitely what happened. Once you get your license, a lot of more jobs become available to you. It like just starts to flow. Like you become like very, very, very needed by jobs. Meaning once you tell them, oh yeah, I have my license, they're like, oh yeah, I think we want you. So makes you more valuable to the workforce. You're valuable anyways, but having that license makes your resume a lot more valuable. So I will say that's what it did for me and gave me a lot more options.
Yeah. And so what has your employment been like since getting your license? What's that been journey?
Let's see. So my first job was with kids, and that's a crazy story too because like life never goes the way you think it's gonna go. Because I came into social work even when I was in school, bachelor's and master's. That's like, what population do you want to work with? I'm like, adults. And it's like, why not kids? I'm like, I don't even like kids. No, I don't have enough patience to deal with kids. So for some reason, once I graduated, I kept getting all these like jobs working with kids. I'm like, but why, God? I don't like kids. Why you keep giving me all these kid opportunities? I don't want to work with kids. So I got my very first job, and it was with kids. I had actually interned there before I got the job there. So interning there and working there was different because by the time I interned there for my bachelor's. So by the time I got my master's, everything there had changed. The way they did stuff had changed completely. Um, because they were doing it to the point where you had all the kids in one big group. So what I learned is kids feed off each other. So when I was interning there, I sat there and watched the kids feed off each other. Disorganization, just chaos. Like I can't deal with it. I don't have enough patience for that. My anxiety is too high for that. So when I started working there, it was totally different setup, and it was more one-on-one. And I fell in love with kids. I fell in love to the point where I'm like, oh my God, that's all I want to work with is kids. But um, teenagers are my specialty. I can I love all kids, but I love teenagers. Yeah, so I forgot the original question.
It's okay. I agree. I'm loving your passion for that population because I'm one. I too. I'm like, yeah, that's one I kind of stayed away from. So I love that there are people out there that want to help our babies on this healing journey. But the original question was like, what's your work been like since getting licensed? So you worked with kids and then you.
I work with kids. I have also worked with, let's see, the mental health population, adult mental health. I like that, but my favorite was when I worked in the prison. I loved it to a certain extent. I loved the prisoners. I loved it, and I loved helping prisoners. But the trauma that goes on in this prison system, it really shook me, and it was messing with my mental health. So that's the only reason I left. But besides that, it was a really great experience, and it really helped me grow.
Yeah, working with inmates is pretty tough. And one of the things that I like about the experience with the Department of Corrections is you really get to learn a lot about the DSM-5.
Yes, you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much.
Yeah, yeah. What do you want to do? I know you said that when you get your LC, you're going to want to open up your private practice. So I guess the next question is, what does the social work future look like for you?
Wow. For me, I'm the type of person, and I'm trying to get this under control, but I want the world. So I'm trying to narrow it down right now. Like, okay, because I love helping people. So every population I've worked with so far, even though I just named like two or three of them, I love helping all of them because I just like helping people. So I have to narrow it down to the point where when I do get my own agency or private practice, that I have a focal group. I have what's the focus? What group are you going to focus on? So I actually was thinking about that a lot today. Yeah, I put a lot of thought into it today. So kids are my primary passion. I even down to the point where I think I want to work with foster kids. I know I want to adopt or foster kids personally for myself, but I have ran into so many people that were part of the foster care system and in all of the agencies that I worked for. And like kids who tell me they're part of foster care and they're telling me their story and all the way up to grown-ups, especially the grown-ups in prison who was telling me, yeah, I was in foster care. And that really has me at a point where I got a thing for foster kids. And because I feel for them, they're at a super disadvantage. And they need someone to hear them and not judge them because a lot of people stereotype foster kids. Oh, they're bad and they're this and they're that. And that's not true. So that's why I want to adopt a foster kid and help them and show them that they deserve love too. And I want to start an agency. And the agency is based on, yes, an agency, but I want to make it feel like it's home. I was thinking of foster care group home. So I've been doing more research on that lately. Like, okay. I worked at a regular group home for people that had intellectual disabilities. That was during my college days. I was just a caregiver there. And my husband, that's where I met my husband at. So me and him, we always talk about, you know what, we're gonna own our own group home one day. But when I was saying that, I was thinking of people with intellectual disabilities. But that has grown into, yeah, I do want a group home, but I want to be a foster care group home. So that has been on my mind really, really heavy right now. A therapeutic foster care group home. Yes.
I love how you're narrowing it down more and more and more. I think you found what I know to be true just listening to your heart. Whatever population you decide to work for is going to be really, really blessed to have you caring for them. So you're going to make a huge impact.
Thank you.
Yeah. Katrina, I'm gonna move on to our next question. According to the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics, social work is one of the fastest growing professions in the United States. And what we know to be true is that we are on the front line for some of the toughest crises this nation has faced. Can you give me an example of your frontline experience as a social worker?
Well, some of my frontline experience is when I used to go to court with my kids. I would say that would be frontline experience because I would always, first, I would have to, I don't want to say testify, but I would have to speak on their behalf when they ask how they're doing in our program. So I would always speak on their behalf. On top of that, I would be there with the moms because I used to always sit on the side with the moms and help them process what's going on. And, because that's a lot for a mom, for their child to be sitting in court, facing charges. So talking to mom, telling her that it's going to be okay. At the court, meeting with the client, letting him know it's going to be okay, no matter what the judgment was, give him positive, him or she, because I had boys and girls, give them positive, points of it, like, okay, you got this. Yeah, this is what's going on, but this is how you're going to handle it. And basically, like, just letting them see the positive in such a negative situation.
Being their source of hope, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. You know what, though? I was thinking because somebody texted me social workers all over the world are always texting me, and I love that. But somebody texted me yesterday. She's got subpoenaed for court coming up, and it's just freaking her out. And I love that your frontline experience was you would have to go and speak on the behalf in front of the court, the judges, the lawyers, the audience. And here you are talking about you were afraid of public speaking. I think that's pretty impactful public speaking. Can you speak to having to go to court and speak in front of everyone on behalf of your client?
I had to grow into it. Well, it wasn't too much growing. It was like, beep, you're in it. They just threw me out there. So I had to just put on my big girl drawers and do it. So, like, that's another thing about social workers, though, too. We do what we got to do. If we got to do it, we're going to do what we need to do. So, growing in my social work career, I've learned that take a deep breath in, just do it. And you don't realize all the times that you taken a deep breath and just did it because until now, I'm just not realizing, like, I did used to do that. And I was nervous, but I signed up for that. I signed up for that. I knew what I was signed up for when I signed up for it. So I was like, okay, just do it.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing that. That's tough work, that's scary work. But also, I just hearing, you talk about the populations you worked with, you were going to do what you needed to do for your client to be okay.
Yes, I was.
So now that you think back on, I love that you're having this reflection and realizing you've been doing public speaking all along. How does that feel to realize, oh, the one thing that I thought I was scared of, I've been doing it.
Yeah, I just didn't have enough time to think about it. And I think that's what I've just realized. That's what people do. It's not that we're afraid to do. It's just you have too much time to think on it. So that gives me a lot of encouragement. Like stop overthinking because I'm definitely an overthinker. So if I stop overthinking, I can do a lot of things and stop holding myself back.
And you're doing that right now. You're doing a good job by showing up here tonight. So you're doing it, Katrena. I'm gonna go ahead though and move on to our next question. What is one belief about social work that you started on this journey with that you feel has changed the most?
One belief I started with was thinking that it was more limited. I'm realizing that it's not as limited as I thought it was. Yes, it's mental health. Yes, it's child welfare, all that stuff. But it's still bigger than that. It's so much stuff I can do here. So much stuff I can do in social work. And so that's something that I can say when I first started, it was a growing process. Like I didn't know that, oh, I can go work for the courts, I can go work for law enforcement, and the field itself is growing a lot. We are everywhere now. So now I see that I have more options. If that makes sense. Yeah, I have more options.
That makes perfect sense. In fact, when your friend, who we don't even know where she is now, begged you to take that social work 101 class, you thought, like a lot of people do, that, oh, those are those people who take the babies. And now being in it now for several years, you're realizing the sky is the limit.
Yes, that is so big. And a lot of people don't realize how big social work is because until you actually take time and either you're in it or you've researched it, it's small. It's just the HR, the hospital, which are great places to be. But it's bigger than that. Like even in prison, like when I first got the job at the prison, I wasn't really picturing social workers in prison, but we are. So yeah,
Yeah, we're everywhere. I love it. And we're on Capitol Hill too, which is my favorite place for us to be, making big changes that affect direct practice. So yeah,
that's
because
true.
one of the things before I get to my last question, and it's been such a joy having you on, but one of the things I keep hearing over and over for the social workers who have worked in the prison is the system is so big and it impacts our mental health. And so one of the things I'm hoping we can get some momentum on is prison reform as social workers. I'm sure there's some folks out there doing it, but I just keep hearing that over and over. So somehow we're gonna be involved in prison reform, I think.
I would love it so much.
You would be great. Katrena, my last question. It's been an amazing interview, but you've had new beginning after new beginning after new beginning. What advice would you give social workers in our audience who are wanting a new beginning in their career?
Take time out. Think about what you want to do. Slightly, just think about it slightly. Because if you think too hard, you're gonna think yourself out the process. Because the whole thing is just jump in, just do it. Don't overthink it, just do it.
Like Nike says,
Yeah, just do it.
let's do it. I love it. I'm glad that you just did this. I'm glad that you just did this. Thank you so much for coming on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.
Thank you. And I can't wait for my friends to see it because they gonna know I don't do stuff like this. So I just had to just do it. Like I just said, I just had to take a deep breath and do it because to be honest, today I was thinking about like I think I gotta call and tell her I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. So I was like, no, she would be so disappointed. So I had to just, take a deep breath and just do it.
That sounds like your test experience. You just had to go on and show up and get it over with.
Yeah,
And the outcomes for you just doing it seems to really work out in your bid on your behalf.
it does.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this experience.
You're welcome. And if you know other social workers who want to come on the show, I'll be glad to interview them.
Okay. I'm gonna really put it out there like, hey, you should do this. Because I have some social work friends that have amazing stories.
And I want to hear them. I want to hear them.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Goddesses of Social Work podcast. We are glad you were here. If you like this episode, please come back to hear more stories of the journeys through social work, and please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify. See you next time here on the Goddesses of Social Work podcast.